Hey everyone. Today I dove into one of Swift's most powerful features, optionals. Optionals allow us to handle missing or uncertain data in a safe way, and I learned several ways to work with them. Let me walk you through what I learned. First, I explored how optionals work. I can declare an optional variable by adding a pod to its type like this. Swift var age int equals nil. This means age doesn't have a value yet, it's just nil. When I want to assign a value to it later, I can do so. Swift age equals 60. Stashed unwrapping optionals. Since optionals might be nil, I need to safely unwrap them before using their values. There are a few ways to do this. One, using if let. This is a simple way to unwrap an optional. If the optional has a value, it gets unwrapped and we can use it. Swift var name string equals nil if let unwrapped equals name print unwrapped.count letters, else print missing name. Here, if name holds a value, I can print its letter count. If it's nil, I can provide an alternative action like printing missing name. 2. Using guard let. Another way to unwrap is with guard, which allows me to exit a function early if the optional is nil. Unlike if let, guard let makes the unwrapped value available outside the conditional block. Swift func greet name string guard let unwrapped equals name else print you didn't provide a name return print hello unwrapped. This ensures the function exits early if there's no name, so the rest of the code only runs when the value is present. 3. Force unwrapping. If I know for sure an optional contains a value, I can force unwrap it using, but this is dangerous because if the optional is nil, the app crashes, so it should only be used when I'm certain it's safe. Swift let str equals 5, let num equals int str. Implicitly unwrapped optionals. Sometimes I might want to treat an optional like a regular variable that I don't need to unwrap all the time. I can use implicitly unwrapped optionals by adding when declaring the variable. However, I need to be careful because if this optional is nil at any point, the app will crash. Swift let my age int equals nil, nil coalescing operator. Next, I learned about the nil coalescing operator datstra. This operator lets me provide a default value in case the optional is nil. It's super useful when I want to avoid handling nil with if let or guard let. Swift let my user equals username for 15 anonymous. In this example, if username for 15 returns nil, my user will default to anonymous. This is a quick way to ensure I always have a value. Optional chaining. I also explored optional chaining, which allows me to call methods or properties on an optional, but only if the optional contains a value. If it's nil, Swift just skips the rest of the line and returns nil without crashing the app. Swift let names equals Luffy, Zoro, let Straw Hats equals names.first, uppercased. Here, Swift safely checks if names.first is not nil, and if so, it applies uppercase to it. Optional try in Swift, you can combine try with optionals using try or try. This is super helpful when dealing with functions that throw errors. Using try, I can turn a throwing function into an optional where nil means the function failed. Swift if let result equals try, check password, password, print result was result, else, print dio. Failable initializers. Another cool thing I learned is failable initializers. These allow a class or struct to return nil if the initialization fails. This can be useful for scenarios where object creation might not always succeed. Swift struct person var id string init id string if id.count equals 9 self.id equals id else return nil. Typecasting with optionals. Lastly, I learned how to use optional typecasting with the as keyword. This lets me safely attempt to downcast an object to a specific type, and if the cast fails, Swift returns nil instead of crashing. Swift let pets equals fish, dog, fish for pet and pets. If let dog equals pet as, dog, dot make noise. Here I loop through a list of pets, and I only call make noise on the objects that can be downcast to dog. Overall, optionals in Swift provide an amazing way to safely handle the absence of values without risking crashes. With different unwrapping methods, nil coalescing, optional chaining, and even failable initializers, Swift gives me powerful tools to write safer and more reliable code.